Fresh turmeric, best price today. Come and see.
This looks good, but the price must be fair.
We will take 5 measures of the chili.
Imagine someone handing you the highest political office in a nation of millions, entirely because they believe you are weak. They look at you, and they see someone easy to control. For a long time, that is exactly how India's political elite viewed Indira Gandhi. Even though she grew up at the absolute center of Indian politics, people mostly saw her as the quiet, agreeable daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru, the country's towering first prime minister. Her childhood home, the Anand Bhavan estate, was a buzzing headquarters for the Indian independence movement. She was deeply educated and absorbed the strategies of nation-building firsthand. Yet she was consistently kept in the background, out of the spotlight. Because she spent her early life in those shadows, the people holding power completely misjudged her ambition. They failed to notice the sharp strategic brilliance developing right in front of them. In 1966, India faced a sudden power vacuum. The acting prime minister passed away unexpectedly, leaving the older, entrenched party bosses scrambling to find a replacement to hold the government together. They settled on Indira. To these veteran politicians, she was a gungi gudiya, a dumb doll. They figured she would look good in photographs while happily taking orders from the men in the back room. The strategy was simple. Use the beloved Nehru family name to win the upcoming elections, while the old guard pulled the strings. But the plan had a major flaw. By selecting a leader they thought they could influence, the old guard had unintentionally given a woman with her own political vision command over the entire government. Once in office, Indira immediately faced her first major obstacle. She had to figure out how to bypass the very party bosses who put her there and expected total obedience. Her solution was a brilliant counter-strategy. She stopped answering to the party elites and started speaking directly to the poorest citizens. She launched a massive populist campaign anchored by 2 words, Garibi Hatao, remove poverty. She backed up those words with aggressive action. She abruptly nationalized India's major private banks. Instead of allowing wealth to remain locked inside elite urban circles, the government forced these banks to lend money outward to rural farmers and small business owners. Next, she accelerated the Green Revolution. This was a massive nationwide initiative to modernize agriculture, using new seeds and fertilizers, aiming to make India entirely self-sufficient in food production. This push for agriculture was deeply personal. Early in her term, India had to rely on American food aid to survive a severe drought. She found the experience humiliating and decided that agricultural success was equal to national sovereignty. By rapidly expanding access to loans and modernizing the food supply, she secured the fierce loyalty of the rural poor. These reforms built her an untouchable base of popular support, entirely locking her old rivals out of the game. With her domestic power secure, she turned to the global stage. It was the height of the Cold War, with the US and the Soviet Union demanding loyalty from developing nations. Indira refused to pick a side, taking a leadership role in the non-aligned movement to keep India independent of superpower control. That independence was tested in 1971. A horrific genocide broke out in neighboring East Pakistan, sending millions of refugees fleeing into India. The situation was complicated by the fact that the United States was firmly backing the Pakistani government. Knowing the US might intervene, she moved to balance the scales. She signed a mutual friendship treaty with the Soviet Union, a move that ensured any American interference would have to answer to Moscow. With the Americans neutralized, she authorized a lightning-fast military intervention. Indian forces decisively defeated the Pakistani army, ending the genocide, aiding the creation of independent Bangladesh, and concluding with the signing of a surrender document. That overwhelming military and diplomatic victory erased the dumb doll myth forever. On the world stage, she was now feared, respected, and universally known as the Iron Lady. But consolidating that much power carries incredible risk. In 1975, a local court found her guilty of minor campaign violations from a previous election. The judge ordered her to be stripped of her parliamentary seat and banned from office. Instead of stepping down, she reacted with staggering force. She convinced the President of India to declare a nationwide state of emergency. Over 100,000 political opponents and journalists were imprisoned. Civil liberties were suspended as she ruled by decree. She systematically stripped away the independence of the courts and states, pulling every vital institution under the central authority of her single office. The exact same ruthlessness she used to protect India from foreign superpowers was now being turned inward. She weaponized the state against its own citizens to protect her personal rule. The emergency lasted for nearly 2 years. When she finally lifted it in 1977 and called for democratic elections, the backlash was swift. The Indian public overwhelmingly voted her out of power, dealing her party its first historic defeat. But the opposing coalition that replaced her was fractured. Without a unifying leader, the new government fell into endless infighting and administrative chaos. Quickly, the Indian public found themselves missing the decisive, strongman leadership they had just voted away. Taking advantage of the chaos, she launched an incredible political comeback. In 1980, the voters brought her back to the Prime Minister's office in a landslide victory. Her final term, however, was consumed by internal conflict. Facing an armed separatist movement in the Punjab region, she ordered the Indian military to storm the Golden Temple to remove militants who had fortified themselves inside the sacred complex. That operation resulted in heavy casualties and deep outrage. Months later, in the autumn of 1984, she was assassinated in her own garden by 2 of her bodyguards, acting in retaliation for the temple attack. Her sudden death left an enormous void, passing control of the country immediately to her reluctant son, Rajiv, and cementing a deeply controversial political dynasty. Looking back at her decades in power, the triumphs are undeniable. She modernized a struggling economy, secured a reliable food supply, made India a sovereign global power that refused to be bullied by wealthier nations. Yet those achievements sat right alongside a dark shadow. The state of emergency set a terrifying authoritarian precedent, leaving behind a political culture heavily reliant on centralized, top-down control. Indira Gandhi defies simple labels. She was neither a flawless saint nor a simple dictator. She was a leader who proved she could outmaneuver the world's most powerful men, standing as a permanent reminder of both the absolute necessity and the chilling paradox of holding ultimate power.